Hi, I'm Juliet, and I'm doing this as more of a podcast because I have quite a few things to highlight. I'm discussing my current thoughts on NFTs, specifically for authors, but adding in some more general issues too. These are pointers on the issues for those who might be thinking about NFTs for their own books, not a nuts and bolts guide on how to create an NFT. They're basically all the things I think you should research if you haven't already, before dipping your toe in the non-fungible world. So, as an author, have you thought about creating an NFT? Do you even know what one is? NFT stands for non-fungible token. Fungible means something that can be replaced by an identical item with exactly the same value to the person who has it. So non-fungible is something that's unique or irreplaceable. This might be confusing when talking about selling books as NFTs, but remember, you're selling the token, not the book as such. The token is unique. It has a unique reference on the blockchain. The individual copy of your book is attached to the token. It also has nothing to do with the copyright, unless you relinquish copyright with the NFT, which you really shouldn't. The content of the book is yours. It's more like if you were selling hard copies of a book in a shop, except for the fact that those would only be non-fungible if they were, for example, signed. What is the blockchain? Well, for a start, there isn't only one blockchain. For our purposes, a blockchain is the place where NFTs are bought and sold. It's also where cryptocurrencies exist, which is what NFTs are bought and sold with on the base level, although some retailers are beginning to simplify that for purchasers by letting them pay with regular money and not having them get involved with the complicated process of using cryptocurrencies. I think of it a bit like the internet, a place where things are done digitally. We carry out lots of digital transactions there. What is different about blockchain is that it is blocks of digital information that are joined together with lots of technical wizardry to create a decentralized record of transactions, which is supposedly better than centralized records because it's more difficult to tamper with. Those records are called smart contracts, and they keep a list of all the transactions relating to that NFT. So it isn't some large retailer, but it's the place where a seller, which could be a large retailer, can create an NFT to sell, which is called minting, which is a term I think came from cryptocurrency. Obviously, originally from regular currency. Doing the whole process yourself is currently pretty complicated, and truly, you'd have to research it very heavily to ensure you were doing it right. I am in no way knowledgeable enough to mint any NFTs, but I have consumed a lot of content on the subject. I'm going to discuss what could be potential benefits and issues as things currently stand. Bear in mind, this could change drastically in a very short space of time. I'll link to several videos in the comments that will give you more detailed information on some of these issues. Let's start with a benefit. It's said that NFTs could be great for authors because you could have a smart contract for selling books that will be able to generate royalties for you or your estate for the life of copyright, as the book gets sold on. This is based on the fact that everything you mint on the blockchain could have this detailed in the smart contract. That sounds great in theory. A way to resell ebooks, which you can't legally do at the moment, because you don't technically own them, and for the author to benefit from it. Now let's pick that apart a little. First, I think NFTs would only be viable for special digital editions of books at the moment. If large retailers set up NFTs for sales, that might change. Apparently, YouTube is looking into facilitating them for videos. Second, and I'm going to link to a video from Legal Eagle on this, which is talking about US law but let's face it, it's going to be an issue everywhere, that talks about the fact that a smart contract isn't a contract in a legal sense at the moment. It is lines of code. This could cause problems down the line. Watch that video for all the details on that. It isn't difficult to understand, but it's too detailed for me to try to summarize here. Next, how are people going to access this book? How is it going to be hosted? Many things sold on the blockchain are just a hyperlink. What if the place that is hosting the book becomes unavailable, becomes corrupted in some way? Are you responsible? Is that written down somewhere? Are there terms and conditions? What if the blockchain goes down, even with the decentralized nature of it? Now, as I've already mentioned, there are companies setting up who are creating interfaces so you can purchase and read your NFT books on a specific platform. But does that mean you can only sell the book onto someone else on that platform? What if the platform isn't popular? What if it goes away? Then what? Does the purchaser have a useless contract? Is it any better than having a rented ebook from a regular retail store? If you are considering this option, read all the terms and conditions carefully. You don't want to end up promising readers things about your NFTs that turn out not to be true. Some people talk about adding extras to their NFTs, things that are not digital products. I'm talking about real-world things such as meetings, phone calls, and events. If you're going to do this, I would say that you don't want to have a lot of NFTs that specify this, because every new purchaser down the chain will want this benefit. Otherwise, why would they buy it? And if it's something you personally have to provide, you might regret it. Especially when you're still getting requests at the age of 95. Plus, think of the admin. Something else to have to keep track of. Okay, let's get on to some more general things. Those smart contracts, by their very nature, have to be traceable. All the information on who has bought the NFT, the whole chain, is contained in the contract. This contract is not particularly private. If you know how, it's possible to find out who purchased something and how much they paid for it. In some ways, this is good. In others, it might not be. I'll let you mull over that one and come up with the positives and negatives. Could NFTs just be a fad? Could they have disappeared in 5 years? They could, but I don't think that will be the case. I do, however, think they are not at present for everyone. Many believe them to be scams, and I don't blame them, some truly are. But mostly, as things stand, they're for those with plenty of disposable income. They are not everyday things. Until blockchain truly becomes integrated into our lives, like the internet did, I don't think this will change. Now, let's get on to the biggest thing for me: environmental concerns. I know things are reportedly getting better. Blockchain companies are changing from proof-of-work systems, which are the real baddies on this score, to proof-of-stake. But to my mind, it's still extra use of resources, and I feel like I need definitive proof that it's not increasing environmental issues. You could argue that paperbacks and standard ebooks use large amounts of energy, especially with the storage of ebooks and having to process paper and ship paperbacks. This is true. However, those things aren't going away because NFTs exist. NFTs are an extra. And do we need yet another consumable? Having said that, I'm not ruling out creating NFTs myself at some time in the future. However, at the moment, I think there's too much that needs to be sorted out first, such as legal issues, simplicity of use, and, of course, the sustainability question. Maybe it will be a great boon for authors, but I'm not holding my breath. The general public has to be convinced of that first, and I don't think that will happen quickly. What I would say is don't get sucked in by someone else's enthusiasm for them. Research the good and the bad before you do anything. To that end, don't forget the videos in the description. They are all long, because this is a complicated topic. But if you're seriously thinking about creating your own NFTs, you really should watch them first, and then do even more research. Most of them concentrate on digital images, but many of the arguments are relevant to any NFT.